Hi guys, so in this YouTube video we are gonna cover the Singleton Design Pattern. So with the Singleton Design Pattern we are gonna basically create an instance of the Singleton class within the Singleton Design Pattern class. Then to demonstrate the global access of the Singleton Design Pattern, we are gonna define two clients that will be able to access the same singleton instance that has been defined. So basically, to summarize what the singleton design pattern is, the singleton design pattern is one of the creational design patterns that you will find in software engineering. So it makes sure that only one object exists and that object is accessible globally for any client or any part of the program to access that object. So to cover where it is mostly used, it is used in logging and in driver objects, caching, thread pooling, and mostly in database connectivity. So that's the high level part. So let's just now cover the practical of the singleton design pattern. So let's get to it. As you can see, I'm using the Eclipse IDE. So you can utilize any IDE that you want. So at this stage, you just create a Java project, a pure Java project that doesn't have any embedded utilities, anything. It's just a pure Java project. Then you'll be able to follow everything that we'll be doing here. So now just create a new Java project using any IDE that you have and name it whatever you want, or name it Singleton Design Pattern. That's what I've named my project on this one. So the name of the project will be Singleton Design Pattern, which is a pure Java project. So within the project, I'll just create a new class, obviously, and the class will be called Singleton. So let's just create a new Java class and name it Singleton. So within the Singleton class, we will have all the utilities that will be used to create the Singleton design pattern. So we'll create the instance of this Singleton class. After creating the instance of the Singleton class, then create a constructor and an instance method that will be retrieving the instance of the Singleton class. So right now let's just create the Singleton instance and declare it private. Let's just zoom in so that people will be able to see. Private static Singleton, and we will name it Singleton instance. Then within the Singleton class, we'll create a constructor, and the constructor will be private so that you are not able to instantiate any object using the new keyword. So let's just say private Singleton, which will be our constructor here. Then we will need to define a get instance method. So a get instance method will be used to retrieve this instance that we have defined for the Singleton design pattern. So the get instance method will return the object that is within the Singleton class. So the method will be a static method also. So let's say public static Singleton, let's call it get Singleton instance, and the method will have no parameters, And within this method we will define the lazy instantiation method for creating the instance object of this singleton class. So with lazy instantiation, basically you are just delaying the object creation until when needed. You don't just create an object at any point, you just create an object whenever you need it. So we are gonna say if singleton instance is equal to null, then if it's equal to null, then we initialize this singleton instance. So we're gonna say singleton instance is equal to new singleton, so that we'll be able to have a single object within this singleton class. So then we will return the singleton instance. After returning this singleton instance, we'll be able to have access to this singleton class instance throughout our program, or we can say application. So to test if our singleton design pattern is up and running, let's just create a new class and we'll call it the main class. Create a new class and name it main, and within the main class let's define the main method that will be the entrance to our application. Public static void main, and say string args. To test if our singleton design pattern is working, let's just create a method that just returns a random name. Public string get name. Within this we will return a name. Let's just say John. So within this singleton instance we'll return a name John to test this with our client main application. So let's define our singleton design pattern object. So we are not going to use the new keyword when we use the singleton design pattern, but we are going to utilize our get instance method here to get the instance of this class, which is a single object for the global access of this object. So let's just say singleton, then singleton is equal to singleton dot get singleton instance. So this will return the singleton instance that we have defined here in this singleton class. So within this singleton instance, let's just display the name that we have defined here within this method. So we're gonna say system dot out print ln, let's say singleton dot get name. So we must print the name John within our main application. So let's just run our main method, run as Java application. So after running, as you can see on our terminal, we get the name John. So right now you might think that a singleton object is just like any other object. So to demonstrate the true power of singleton design pattern, we have to define multiple clients. So we are gonna create another client that will be able to access this single instance object, and we will use that client with our main method so that our main method will act as client 1, and that other client that we describe and define will act as client 2, and they will be able to access a single instance of this singleton class and be able to manipulate that instance object of the singleton class. So let's create a new class and we'll call this class client. So make sure you define a new class and call it client, then just say public client to define the constructor of this client class. So within our singleton, let's go back to our singleton class. Let's remove this method to get the name John, and we'll create a array list. So we're gonna create a list that will house the names of individuals, just random names that will be used to test this singleton design pattern with multiple clients. Let's say private list of type string, call it names. Then we'll say it's equals to new array list type string, then array list, then arrays then we define the arrays dot, it's making some problems here. It's equals to new array list. Let's just say and include the util. Then within this, say arrays dot s list, then include the name John. So now that name, we have included it within an array list. So within this array list, you will be able to manipulate this single instance of this array list. So let's go and define, we're going to define 3 methods. A delete method that will be able to delete my names within this array list. An insert method that will be able to insert names within this list, and get all method that will return all the names within this list. So let's just say public void insert name. We will get a string name, parameter of string name, then within the names, then add the name. So insert the name within the array list, then define another method to delete a name. So string name, then say names dot remove name. So this method will remove a name from that array list we have defined here. So another method to get all the names in the list, public list type string, then say get all names, and this will return names, which is the names here defined for the array list. So now our singleton class is ready to be tested by different lines. So we'll have the main and this line that we have defined here. So this class, for the line that we have defined, we'll just insert and delete and use the main method to be able to list all the names from the singleton class. So within this client, let's just say, let's create an instance of the singleton object to demonstrate the power of the singleton design pattern. Then say private singleton, then say singleton, And in the constructor, we're gonna say singleton is equals to not new, but singleton dot get singleton instance. So we are gonna be able to access the same singleton instance that has been accessed within this main method. So we are gonna access the same object with the same data. So in the client, you're gonna define the insertion and the deletion methods only. So public void insert name. We're gonna say string name. Then within the singleton, let's just say this here to demonstrate that we have within a class this dot singleton dot insert name. So we're gonna use this singleton to insert the name and also delete public void delete name and say string name will receive the name to be deleted. Then this dot singleton dot delete name. So this line that we have defined will be only able to insert and delete. So we are gonna say this is client 1. This will be our client 1. Let's not say client 1, just say used for deletion and insertion. And in the main method, let's just say used to display a list of names from singleton. And here use for deletion and insertion from singleton, just so that you understand what they are used for. So now we are gonna create an instance of our client object that you have defined here that will be able to access the same object that is here defined within the main method. So let's just say client is equals to new client. So with this new client, you're gonna able to insert name, client dot insert name. So now let's just insert Mary, which will insert the name within the Singleton Design Pattern. So let's insert the name Mary, then client dot insert the name Peter. And using this same Singleton Design Pattern within this main method, you are gonna access this Singleton Design Pattern also, Design Pattern object also. So within the main method, you're gonna define the Singleton Design Pattern. Then this one will just display the list of names within the Singleton Design Pattern object. So we're gonna retrieve the names as a list of string and say names. So from the singleton, just say get all names. So we're going to be able to retrieve all the names from the Singleton Design Pattern object. Then we are going to use a loop to display all the names within this array list. So for each string name, type name in names, then we're gonna display out.print ln name. So this one will display all the names that are within the Singleton Design Pattern objects. So if you understand what we just did, we are using this client object to access the Singleton Design Pattern object. So we are also using the main to access the same Singleton Design Pattern object. so that you will be able to understand the global access of using the Singleton Design Pattern. So after defining the client, so this client will be able to insert names within the Singleton Design Pattern object. So the main method will be responsible for displaying name. So right now, the names that we expect to display is John, Mary, and Peter. So let's run our program. So after running our program, we should display 3 names. So as you can see on our console, we have John, Mary, and Peter. So the main method creates a Singleton Design Pattern object, and the client is also be able to access the same Singleton Design Pattern object that has been created here. So, and we are able to enter Peter name and here display those names within the main method. So that's the true power of using the Singleton Design Pattern. So let's just test to see if the deletion works. So client.delete name, we're gonna delete John. John has been already defined as the default name here within our array list, so let's just delete John. So we expect to see Mary and Peter on our console after we run our application. Let's just run it. So only Mary and Peter has been defined. So this one has been used, the client has been used to access the deletion of the name John within our array list. So that's the power of the Singleton Design Pattern, using a single object to be able to access that object throughout our program for global access.